Hey, what's up? This is Antimatter here. The last season of ISPA gear has probably been Nike's best. 5 different sneaker releases, a few bits of apparel as well, and even murmurings of a new colorway of the Road Warrior coming out, which was kind of the flagship, super exclusive shoe of the bunch. Those sold out instantly, I took the L on those, but I do have one of my favourites, which are these, the Nike ISPA Drifter. These came out about a month ago now, I think it was the 30th of August, at £169 or $199. A relatively premium sneaker from Nike then, but also one packed with different construction techniques and technologies. They are still sitting around in some sizes and some retailers, suggesting relative popularity, but these not necessarily being a smash hit. So let's check out this rather unusual sneaker from both an aesthetic and a performance and a comfort perspective to see if they're worth considering. First though, it's time to address something important. A couple of months ago you all roasted me for getting my hairy armpits out on camera, and somebody had to come to my rescue, because if the armpits are looking like that, you can only imagine the horrors that lie below the belt. And who better than Manscaped, who are kindly the paid sponsors of this video. You might have caught me on Instagram unboxing the fun little package that they sent me, so you best believe that I had to give my own fun little package a bit of an upgrade. I mean big, intimidating package. Anyway, of all that stuff, Lawnmower 3.0, the star product, designed specifically for body grooming. So yep, rated for slicing right through the Amazon, and there's some kind of blade-based wizardry going on there, so you're less likely to snag yourself. But I suppose the most important thing I can tell you is I did give this a go, and it did a better job of, well, manscaping than the razor thing that I used to use. So I'm going to keep using this in future for sure, and you can use code Antwon20. Yes, that's right, we finally have ourselves a coded promo. Code Antwon20, and you can get yourself 20% off anything that they do, including the Lawnmower 3.0, which is the little cool thing that I've got. One thing that doesn't need any shaving is the Nike ISPA Drifter. Aesthetically though, it is a very complex shoe, so definitely requires a little bit of a look in detail. And I'm not even going to beat around the bush, we're going to go straight in to this shoe's most divisive and most distinctive feature. That is, of course, the heel tab on the back. No, I'm just kidding. It's the tabi split toe that you'll find at the front here. This style has been used in Japan since the early 20th century for outdoor activities where dexterity and grip are required. And more recently it's been popularized by Margiela, who have applied this style to a bunch of different silhouettes, including both sneakers and smart boots. They've done that to great success, and Nike are clearly kind of riffing off that more recent popularity, whilst also looking back into their own archives, because this shoe is effectively a reimagining of Nike classic, the Air Rift, which also uses this exact same tabi design. This is only accentuated by these straps that go across the upper here, almost looking like they're pulling the toes apart, and what that does is not only split the shoe, but split this from anything that looks remotely conventional. You've already got a lot to think about with that split toe, but add in the straps that are going across here, which you'll find across the sides too, and this absolutely massive chunky heel here, and this almost looks like it's a design that's crafted in a lab. So many different elements which all kind of look like they're designed for a purpose, but all kind of mashed together into one silhouette. These big elements are so unusual looking, and they also kind of look like they're there for a reason. But let's look a little bit closer, because there's even more going on with this shoe. There's all kinds of tiny details on here. You've got the reinforced eyelets here, you've got the extra Nike grind foam that's kind of exposed and attached to each side of the midsole, you've got different material changes over this, you've got this kind of stretchy feeling nylon upper, and then down at the toe box you've got a reinforced honeycomb pattern ripstop, which is quite cool. Ballistic nylon tongue, you've got these little suede patches around the collar too, and sort of on the inside, which provides a little bit more comfort. Yeah, all of these different features are all designed to provide that little bit of extra comfort or performance in some way. Add to this a few purely aesthetic ISPA touches too. You do of course have the ISPA logo, which is on one of the straps. Although you don't have a full-size Nike swoosh, there's a mini one to the toe box, and there's a few other elements as well, probably most notably the little 3M circle that's just on the top of the upper here, just after the toe box, and you've got lots of little dots as well, which are all over the upper, which is very reminiscent of the rest of the ISPA line. That's something that they've included in quite a lot of the previous ISPA releases. It's a very busy design, there's no getting around that, there's simply a lot going on this shoe. Is it too much? I think quite a few people would probably say yes, And that is a very common criticism of the ISPA line in general, that they are over-designed, that there's a bit too much going on. I think for me and for this shoe, there are a few things that help rescue that. I think firstly because a lot of these features are performance derived. A lot of the things that I've mentioned, they're not just there kind of just because. It's not just a load of branding or random scribblings that are going on all over the upper. All of them are kind of designed to do something, or designed like they look like they do something. The tonal nature of the upper, the nice interplay of these different kind of light grey, kind of slightly creamy, yellowy tones, all of that makes for a much more cohesive shoe aesthetically than some of the previous ISPA releases. In fact, if you compare this shoe to some of the older stuff, it definitely feels to me like an upward trend. Yeah, there's much less kind of unnecessary branding, while still being a very future-focused and a very differentiated design. Can you get past, though, that big aesthetic feature, the split toe in the front here? Well, luckily, I think Margiela has done a lot of work in helping to normalize this in high fashion circles. It's now not super uncommon to see this kind of look. It hasn't quite filtered down to the mainstream yet, so I think for your average buyer, that is probably going to look unusual. Maybe it's going to be the first time that they have seen this kind of design in a sportswear or in a fashion context. They really demand the experimental, I think, so messing around more in that high fashion, dare I say avant-garde space, I think is really going to help bring out the best in these. Don't be afraid to pair these up with some weird stuff. But I think kind of unusually, despite these looking like a very sportswear kind of shoe and very performance focused, I think these do quite nicely along with more relaxed kind of casual, just cozy looking things. I think the split toe does a lot to kind of get that idea across, because to me they still look like a comfortable shoe, especially with that Asian inspiration. But I would also really like to see some kind of future focused, really aggressive looking sportswear fits. I think that kind of thing could also be very, very cool with these. Now let's talk about what they're actually like to wear. First up, these are a bit of a pain to put on, I can't lie. It's partly because of this kind of collar securing mechanism here. It's not actually anything to do with the split toe, but it just means that when you have this collar system, it does constrict the foot opening a little bit, and that combined with the fact that the heel does like to collapse as soon as you start putting your foot in there, it does, yeah, you really have to like loosen these front laces here, you have to loosen this up a lot, you have to do a little bit of work to get your foot in these. Once that's done though, you'll find yourself in a pretty comfortable shoe. I wouldn't say that this collar securing mechanism is a massive game changer, like it really revolutionizes things, but it does provide a decent level of tightness around the heel as well as around the top of the tongue here as well. So it's certainly better implementation than some of the other like heel securing mechanisms that we've looked at in other shoes previously, including the ISPA 270 back from last year or whenever that was, which essentially used a less effective version of this tightening system. This is supplemented though with a traditional lacing system as well, which I think is really important. And these laces are designed to go underneath the straps here, so when you tighten these up, it's designed to provide a little bit of extra comfort and tightness to the forefoot here. So you've got security at the back, bit of security at the front too. All in all, that does give you a nice, fairly locked in and supportive feeling. That's definitely a good thing because these came up a little bit less snug than I anticipated. I think when you see a shoe like this, you expect them to be like skin tight. That's really not the case, which is probably a good thing. So yeah, I think true to size is fine with these. But yeah, you've luckily got a little bit of room in here, and yeah, the lacing structure does really help lock your foot in. The burning question though, is this split toe at the front actually comfortable? What does it do? Well, in a word, yeah, I think it is pretty comfy. It definitely feels a little bit weird the first time that you put your foot in these, just because you just don't expect there to be material between your big toe and the rest of your toes, frankly. Once you get used to this though, I don't think it really changes what your foot is trying to do in any dramatic sort of way. By that I mean that both the big toe box and the little toe box are sufficiently roomy that it doesn't really feel like your foot is being forced into a weird position or your toes are being like consciously separated as such. But what it does do is when you're moving around, especially when you're kind of on your toes, it just feels like you have a little bit of extra like agility, a bit more dexterity in that forefoot area. Obviously, you're not going to go around gripping things with your toes like some kind of ape, but yeah, it's that lateral movement that feels quite easy and quite natural. And if you contrast that with the absolutely massive amount of cushioning at the heel here, you've got this, yeah, you've got a real contrast between the very light, the very nimble feeling forefoot and the very comfy, the very padded, the very stable heel. All in all, once you've got these on, of course, that contrast, that combination of those two different things makes for a pretty comfortable shoe that I would certainly be happy wearing all day. One thing I did notice comfort-wise actually, they seem to have quite a lot of arch support. There's definitely a noticeable bump in the centre of the shoe, kind of on the instep. To the point that when I was just standing around in these, I did find that quite noticeable and almost a little bit uncomfortable, although admittedly I totally forgot about that as soon as I started walking around. It may not affect everyone, but if you know that you've got super flat feet or something, I would definitely be conscious of that, because you probably will notice that too. Actually, one downside on the cushioning side of things, the Nike grind foam, which is partially visible on the outside here, props to Nike for using it because it's made from recycled materials, basically like things that are scooped up off the factory floor essentially and remade into cushioning. Because it is exposed like this, doesn't really seem like the most durable material in the world. I have already damaged part of this after just a couple of wears, so I'm not sure how this is going to hold up and how it's going to look long term. We'll have to wait and see what these look like once they start getting a few chunks out of them, which is inevitably going to start happening at some point. And before I forget, you do get a pair of tabi socks in the box, which of course is essential because, yeah, please don't wear these barefoot, that's just gross, and any normal socks are not going to do you right. The socks are okay, they're nice and tall, which is good, so you can wear these with like cropped pants and stuff. They're a little bit on the thin side, but they do the job and they fit the aesthetic very well, I think. There are tabi socks available from other brands. I've got quite a few pairs from Maharishi, and those would also be a good shout. You can get some nice black ones as well, for example, and then you've got a little bit more contrast there, kind of match things up with the grind foam. Yeah, you do have some options. It's not like it's super difficult to find tabi socks, although I don't think you can buy those specific ISPA ones, so be careful with those once you get them. You don't want to be hunting around everywhere for that one pair of socks just so you can wear the shoes you want to wear. That's too much effort. The actual box design is kind of fun too. It's very experimental. It definitely kind of goes with that made in the lab kind of crafted feel that Nike are clearly going for with this shoe. And it's just always nice, I think, when you pick up a shoe and it does come in a unique box. If you're a collector type, then that's definitely going to appeal. All in all, is the experiment of the Nike Drifter a success? I'd say yes on the whole, and I definitely think that these are better than previous ISPA releases, and indeed the previous ISPA sneakers that I've looked at on this channel. They're not going to be for everyone, that's for sure. I think that split toe is just going to be a little bit too much for some people, but if you can get past that, if you can kind of get used to that, you'll find yourself with a pretty cool, pretty futuristic, experimental looking shoe that fortunately is also pretty comfy to wear. Nike ISPA Drifter, what do you guys think about them? Is the split toe a bit too much for you, or do you like this kind of futuristic experimental design? And I suppose more importantly, do you like this as an ISPA release compared to some of the stuff that's come previously? Is this, yeah, do you think ISPA is on the way up, or do you think some of the older stuff is a little bit nicer? Either way, let me know what you think down there in the comments. As always, it's good to hear your guys' thoughts, and if any of you guys have picked these up already, then yeah, definitely leave some of your thoughts below, because that's always going to be helpful for other people looking to pick these up. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, please do give it a like, because it is super appreciated, and as always, we will catch you next week with another one. Thanks to all your positive comments last week. It was so nice to read all that stuff. It seemed like you guys were as happy to have that interview as I was. So yeah, thanks so much. Tegwa Germany, 10 Miler, Tailored Gentleman. Honestly, so many of you guys. Thank you so much for all your support on that video. And yeah, I wouldn't be able to do stuff like that without all of you guys who enjoy these videos and watch them and subscribe and leave comments and all that cool stuff. So yeah, again, thank you so much for all of your support, not just on this video, but across everything. Because yeah, I really do appreciate it, promise you that. Anyway, thanks for making it all the way to the end of the video. If you want to catch some more stuff, there's going to be links going up at the top there, and if you haven't subscribed yet, then you should definitely consider doing so, because we've got a whole bunch more techwear stuff coming up. I've got some real exciting things in the pipeline. We've got the Coat at Seal bag review, haven't done that yet. We've got potentially some cool stuff from Valence as well. That's going to be fun to do. And yeah, there's going to be more stuff, of course. So yeah, keep an eye out for that stuff.